here are your hosts of Financially Tuned, Mark Fricks and Tony Shore.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Financially Tuned with me, Mark Fricks from MasterPlan Retirement Consultants, and our host this week, Tony Shore. This week's show is to share with you tips on helpful ways to deal with and prepare for unforeseeable emergencies during your retirement. Now, this is really a great topic that can be hard to face, but it is much easier to prepare for an emergency than to go through an emergency unprepared.
Well, that's so true. That's so true, Mark. And you know what? It's great to be back here with you again. Mark, how have you been this week?
It's been a great week, Tony. Had an opportunity to do some work as a guest on another radio show, and that went really well. It was exciting and got to answer some questions there. And again, we're just have a lot of folks coming in looking for help, and it really fuels our passion.
Well, that's great. And you know what? This topic we have today, it's going to be a good one. To start us off, do you have people, Mark, that you meet with that ask you about ways to prepare for an emergency during retirement?
Well, Tony, I have to be honest, this topic does not come up as often as you would think, but I think because folks are really concentrating on the money side and the income side of things. But I do wish more people would ask and would want to know how to prepare for emergencies in retirement. But preparing for an emergency in retirement is really an important part of organizing assets and really preparing for the future. Too often, people are forced into bad financial decisions because of an emergency. Something happens unexpectedly and they kind of panic and make the wrong choices. So it's really a lot easier, Tony, to prepare for a financial emergency than to react to one. Now, there are really some staggering statistics that show just how close many Americans are to a financial emergency.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I like what you said there about planning for an emergency rather than trying to deal with one after or as it's happening. Can you maybe share with us what some of those financial statistics are?
Sure. I pulled some statistics from an infographic by the Digitary Life, and it kind of details the finances of the average American family. For instance, the average American family has $3,800 in the bank. 50% of American households don't have a retirement account. That's half of all American households, Tony.
Wow.
And then also 50% of households with retirement accounts only have up to $35,000, and that's per family. Again, just really low numbers. The average family owns a house that's worth around $165,000, but $95,000 of that is in a mortgage. And, something else, the average income is $43,000 a year. The average credit card debt is $2,200 a year. Let's see what else we've got. 40% of working Americans are not saving for retirement, so
Wow.
4 out of 10 are not even saving for retirement. Another one is $117,951 is the average American's household debt, so over $100,000. Another one is 24% of Americans have postponed retirement. I think a lot of that is due to not only planning for putting money away, but also not anticipating the possibility of a market downturn or a bad economy. And Tony, that's something we have to prepare for because it happens every so many years. Another statistic is only 18% of Americans are confident about their retirement situation. $2 trillion is the combined amount of personal debt held by Americans. And get this, Tony, 7.7% of Americans don't even have a bank account. So just some staggering statistics.
Wow.
Yeah. So in addition to that, they did a survey, dsnews.com, and they did a national survey, and it stated that 1 in 3 Americans would not be able to make their mortgage or rent payment past 1 month if they lost their job. Just really sad, and again, it reflects upon the lack of preparedness that we have. And even if you do have a great job, some savings, and a reasonable investment portfolio, the best way to prepare for an emergency is to really fully realize that very few people are immune to a financial crisis in retirement.
Those are some staggering statistics, but important to know to get things in perspective. Now, how difficult is it to get your clients to realize that a financial emergency is possible?
Well, it's not as difficult as you think. It really is a rewarding part of our job. We spend a lot of time with our clients, speaking to them about the dangers in retirement. And some experts say there are 9 dangers or risks when you're in retirement. Some say 12. So it's probably just how you break them up. But we talk a lot, Tony, about creating a retirement roadmap. And just like if you were planning a vacation or a road trip across the United States, you would not only plan your route and where you're staying and perhaps what you're driving, but most people would also take a look at what could go wrong. We could lose our credit cards. We could get lost. We could have a breakdown. And so we would also, hopefully, if you're a prudent person, you would also prepare for those types of things that can happen. And it's the same thing with retirement. We like to sit down with our clients and discuss what could go wrong and then develop a strategy to guide us through that particular emergency.
Well, sure. And Mark, you do this type of thing all the time. So how do you help someone if they acknowledge that a financial emergency could happen to them?
Well, we start by organizing their assets, getting them in an order that we know what they have, where it's at, what the account numbers are, what the values are, how things are invested, or where they're at. And that kind of is a good beginning point, because if you don't know what you have and where you're at, you certainly can't anticipate what emergencies may come up. And so organizing is a key area and something that we do start with. And really, on top of that, you really could be surprised at what, once you organize things, it will help you pay attention more, I think, to where money is going, where it's coming from, what it costs you to vacation and what it costs you to do things like that would be somewhat maybe wasteful. We spend a lot of time with our clients, Tony, finding what we call lazy dollars. What are dollars that you're overspending? Maybe it's money that you're spending too much on car insurance, or maybe on your mortgage. And if we can free up additional money, then that's money that can be put aside for financial emergencies or future retirement income. One other thing too, Tony, I want to mention, there was a study done by the Associated Press, and it showed that only 32% of households actually keep a budget. Now, Tony, I know budget's an ugly word when it comes to our American society, but at least understanding where money's coming from and where it's going is important. And then finally, one other study by CNBC reported that 28% of people have no emergency fund. And that's the next step, is once you've organized everything, you've got to have some type of an emergency fund to go to if you do have an emergency.
Well, sure. And Mark, do you have something that you can give to your clients or our listeners that might help them get ready for a retirement emergency?
Yeah, Tony, I think a good tool to use would be our Rule of 100 report. It's a good way to kind of organize your assets in a big picture way, to kind of show where you're invested and how it's invested, where money is safe, where it's saved, things of that nature. And it's a good way to kind of get a glimpse of where things lie. And of course, folks can request that Rule of 100 report by contacting our office. A couple of ways you can contact us, Tony. The good old-fashioned phone call is a great way to contact us at 770-980-9262, or you can visit our website, which is found at MasterPlanYourRetirement.com. There's several tabs there that you can contact us, and also some additional information that you can either watch via video or download via reports.
All right. Well, you know what, Mark? Our time is just about up for this segment. We're going to have to take a quick break.
Sounds great, Tony. Just a quick reminder before we take this break. Again, the phone number is 770-980-9262, and the website is MasterPlanYourRetirement.com.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark. We're going to be right back with more from Mark Fricks on planning for a retirement emergency on Financially Tuned right after this. To hear the rest of the show or for more information, go to MasterPlanYourRetirement.com or call Mark at 770-980-9262 to schedule an appointment.